That's a big thing, leading people, leading the team members to come with you and provide exceptional customer experience on a consistent basis. When you have the right partners, they can keep you accountable. They're going to train your team to make sure everybody understands what success looks like, what their roles and responsibilities are. Most importantly, how do they measure their own success?
And this one is hailed from the US, and it's Converge Dental with Ella. Now, you're going to see if I get this right, Ella. Malokandova.
Perfect.
And Tanya Con. How are you both?
We're doing great.
Doing fantastic. I'm super excited to be here with you.
But first of all, put us in the picture of how you both, what role you've played in the industry in the past and what you're doing now, how long you've been doing it with Converge Dental.
We are both dental hygienists, and we both have about 20 years or so in the industry as hygienists. And surprisingly enough, as we were practicing, and no matter what practice we go to, we notice that there are puzzle pieces that are missing. The challenges that the doctor has on their plates is enormous on daily basis. And there's so much to focus on. And at the same time, the focus is really not there because they wear so many hats and so much that needs to be done. So within that 20 years, Tanya and I came together one day at my kitchen table, actually. And we looked at each other, kind of sharing our challenges and what we come across. And this is how Converge Dental was born. It is our transformational coaching company where we simplify and streamline the business operations for the practices. There's no need to spend hours and hours with a team trying to figure out how to do this process and what is the successful process for one aspect or another of the patient experience. No need for that because we at this time provide our model practice, which think of it as a business in a box. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's all predefined best practices from the initial point of interaction with the patient to creating those lifelong patients that are ambassadors for your practice, and how each interaction point with those customers is optimized and creates success. So that's how Converge Dental was born, and that's what we're doing right now with all of our doctors that we work with and the teams that we inspire and give them that inspiration to continue and become better.
I love that. And continuing to become better is enormous. And as Tony Robbins says, progress equals happiness. We are at our happiest when we feel like we're progressing. And this is where companies like yours are so important, because it can absolutely be the case that a dental practice run by a dentist, they know their dentistry beautifully well. They know they're completely competent in that space. And they think that just by buying their own business, they really should know. It should be common sense to then know how to run the business itself. And so when they feel like they don't have the resources at their fingertips to know what the next best helpful step is, they become stagnated in that one particular area. And it can be very deflating and very demotivating. And you think, is this what it's all about? This isn't enjoyable.
Exactly. That's why I think before we started recording, you mentioned how many dentists are actually reaching out to get some help. Because there is a little bit of a pride, they are very smart individuals. They went through schooling, and that's a lot of schooling to go through to become and be in the position they're in. They have the passion to perform the dentistry and give comprehensive treatment to patients, do that beautifully, but they're overwhelmed with everything else that is on their plate. And unfortunately, not too many of them, until they reach a certain point where they're like, this is not worth it. I cannot do this anymore. I'm not reaching my vision, is when they finally reach out and say, okay, I need help. How do I do this? Common sense is, what we do. It could be common sense to one person, but because there's so many focus areas in order to run a successful practice, it's hard to be super focused on one thing, which is, how do I bring the team to see my vision? How do I lead them and inspire them to be the leaders in their own area of expertise so they can help me get to the vision that I want to get to? That's a big thing, leading people, leading the team members to come with you and provide exceptional customer experience on a consistent basis, that's a tough focus to be focused on. But when you have the right partners, they can keep you accountable. They're going to train your team to make sure everybody understands what success looks like, what their roles and responsibilities are. Most importantly, how do they measure their own success? What numbers and measuring KPIs do they look at to make sure that their performance is optimized and successful?
That's for sure. And I think, I know I can feel that tension within me. Like, I had my own practice for 10 years and I was reading a whole bunch of books. And this is back in the day. I know I don't look that old, but this is before internet days, where when you went to the bookstore and you looked at the leadership section, there may have been about 6 titles there. Management, maybe about 4 titles there. So the people that were writing books back and getting published back then were the absolute superstars that really had impactful things to say, like Stephen Covey, etc. And so I felt like I was very lucky in that space because the information that I was absorbing was fantastic. Nowadays, I think you have to read 10 business books to be able to find one where you think, oh, this is a path I could really take. However, with dental consulting, it's a little bit different. I really do feel like that there are, when you consider the number of dental practices out there, there aren't that many dental consultants. And as you said, we were thinking before, there's about 5%. This is a kind of an accepted average. About 5% of dental practices actually do reach out and get that assistance. But those 5 dental practices, they will likely, most of them, get information from more than one consultant. They go through many different programs. And I feel the tension of when I had my practice, getting somebody else in and telling me how to do it. There's so much ego stuff that comes up with that. I know how to do it myself. Why do you think I bought this practice to start off with? I'm not going to be successful and blame and have you be the responsible party for it. I'm going to battle through and do it myself. So I can sit there and claim that that whole success myself. There's so much ego stuff around that. But I think it's a shift of mindset around what a consultant means for a dental practice owner. And you have no problems handing over all the accounting to an accountant, handing over all the marketing to a marketer. It's the same sort of thing. Let's hand over all of the practice management side, the KPIs, the team training, getting people on board, to an expert who does this all the time. However, the difference with consultants is the accountant doesn't teach the dentist how to do accounting, but consultants do teach the owners how to run a business successfully. So it can be one of the most powerful steps forward to recognize where within the ego we've got that resistance around asking for help and assistance, and see it just as an additional form of learning that we all need to go through, because we never had the answers just because we became a dentist and just because we became a dental practice owner. The answers weren't just all laid within our brains. We have to learn and discover them and then apply them ourselves into our business. But that can be that one little shift that makes an enormous difference.
Yes, it does. I was listening to another podcast today, and they were talking exactly about that, the idea of doctors going through schooling and learning their art, right? The art that they do so well, which is dentistry, and they invest so much on the new technology and how do I do, for example, CEREC dentistry to be more efficient and productive in the practice. But the schools or dental school doesn't teach you all the other nuances of running a practice, right? So, and you're 100% correct. As they are delegating marketing to marketers and finances to accountants, it is the same and similar idea of getting coaching with a company that are experts in what they do. So that I think it's important, if you're a dentist out there and listening to this, take a minute to really evaluate where are you in your journey of success, of creating that success in your practice that you're trying to create. And would you think an initial introduction of a consultant or a coach would be even beneficial for you to give you a little boost to go further? And that's the question to ask yourself. Ego aside, if you want a successful practice, And if you want a practice that's going to dominate the competition, for example, if you're that competitive, then it is not something that you always do on your own, but that's when you get a team to work with you to reach that potential. So we always advise our doctors when we do our discovery sessions, we're like, we might not be a match. I'm glad you reached out, but we might or might not be a match. But let's see what information we can give you to help you. If you need a little bit of boost or guidance or accountability from a coaching perspective, we're here for you. And if you feel like this, I got it and you can do it on your own, that is fantastic. I'm glad you're there. So just take a moment and really evaluate where are you on your journey, and then does investing in a partnership with a coach, does that make sense to make your practice grow even bigger?
Yeah, I love it. We've always got to reflect back to the absolute superstars of sport. When do they stop receiving coaching? Never. The better they are, the more coaching they get. So, Tanya, tell me about what it's like if the dental practitioners out there that have never gone down the path of consulting, and it could be various reasons. I don't want to freak my team members out. I don't want to lose control. I don't want them to come in and then my normally functional team becomes a little bit resentful and dysfunctional for whatever reason because there's been changes put forward. What's the experience that you've experienced when you go into dental practices and their team response to the work that you do? Tell me a little bit more about that.
I think we have a different approach than the rest, how others do it. We come with a very positive mindset. We really take the time to not just only work with the dentist, but we really take the time to really connect with the rest of the team, to get to know them. We ask them kind of like questions, what motivates them, what inspires them, before we can really go in and dive deep with the doctor and start, recommending things. So we really emphasize the importance on getting to know the team, because they're the ones really doing the work, and they're the ones really helping the doctor, the dentist, scale and grow to whatever level that they want to do. So we have a systematic approach, just like we expect the doctors to have it. We have our own system and process for us to make the team more welcoming, because in the past, as a dental hygienist practicing in previous offices, I remember where consultants at times would come in and you just felt belittled, and you just constantly got pointed out on what you did wrong, how you did it wrong, and you're not going to do it that way. And you really had no say or opinion. And we really, we don't go about that way. We really listen to them, and we take in consideration, and we want them to feel valued and important. And because we are also advocating for them as well.
That's it. And that taps into such a strong fear I think all of us have, whether it's a team member or the practice owner as well. Am I going to bring this group in and all of a sudden it's going to be highlighted how ineffective I actually am and how much I've got to learn because I'm so far behind? I think everyone has that fear, don't they?
Yes,
they do.
Yeah.
We come in into the practice, and with each team member that we have a 30 minute or whatever discussion session with every team member separately, because we set the stage saying that we're here to help you blossom. What does that look like? Where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself advancing in certain areas? Do you need more education or training? What do you need to be successful? Upon taking on more responsibilities or understanding how your role impacts the overall practice success, how do you see yourself in this overall picture of what the doctor's vision is? So when we empower them that way to say, we're not here to tell you what to do or how well or not well, maybe well, but not how delinquent you are in what you should be doing.
Yes.
We're here to see how we can set the stage for your success. And that's what opens the doors for them to say, oh, they're advocating for me. Mm-hmm. And here's what I want. Great. Let's open that communication with the doctor and make sure the doctor knows what you want and how you envision yourself in your path in your career as well. Let's see if that aligns and see if the doctor can complement that and provide you the training that you need or want.
And we also use measurable data for the team to see where they are once we come in, to where they're going, so they have a clear vision and understanding of where they're going to be going together as a team and with the dentist.
And that's important, isn't it? We need to, that's where the progress can be felt or acknowledged, because I know that in my life, for example, I've always felt like I've been quite self-aware on the self-awareness journey, taking responsibility for my world and all the things. I've always felt that way. However, I did have a first marriage, and after many, many years that did end, and then I got into a new relationship and a new marriage with Charles, who's gloriously brilliant, and I've been with him, and because he's so focused on self-awareness and self-development, and he doesn't tell me you should live your life this way, but just through observation and hearing his messages over and again when he's speaking at conferences and on his podcast and to clients, you get to absorb all of these things. And so between the first self-help book that I read, which was back when I was about 14, and obviously acting like a pill because my mother gave it to me. She actually threw it at me. You have to read this. So I was about 14 to now, so 52. You think, I've just been self-aware in this block of time. But years after the divorce, I had to go back into old emails and see something about superannuation funds or something like that. And I was reading back over my emails during the separation and divorce, and I was so embarrassed. This person that I thought I was self-aware and taking responsibility, I'm like, oh my God, it's like 13-year-old that I'm reading these messages from. And so I think and so then I thought to myself, I'm so far different from then. Now I feel the sense of progress because I've got something tangible to compare myself to. And this is why tracking performance with some sort of gauge is so important, because when we change incrementally, slowly over the days, weeks, months, years, we don't realize how far we've actually become. But it's quite motivating when we can recognize that.
Yeah. And the team responds so much well within our experience when we show them that. It's so fulfilling, and you just love doing it, and then they're inspired and they're motivated, and then they just whole team alignment, and the doctor is just like, oh my God, I never looked at it this way, or I never thought of going about this way or this approach.
The other thing I would like to add, you mentioned being self-aware, right? A lot of people are not. But some people are starting the journey to becoming self-aware, right? I think in the US right now, it's a bigger thing. A lot of people are going into holistic or being self-aware and meditation. But the idea is when we are interacting with, no matter if you're a doctor, hygienist, or a team member, whoever you are in the practice, identifying what is your personality, identifying what is your inspiration, what's your driving point of why you're even there in this field or with this doctor in this office in the first place. So as a practice owner, if you decide, I just want to do this on my own, that's great. Do that on your own. Read or listen to podcasts like this to get ideas, but you truly want to know your team, know their personalities, to know how do these personalities come together, how to motivate them. Because some people are motivated by numbers and they're motivated by money and compensation. Some people just want that family environment feeling that they're accepted. Yeah. Some people are motivated by the fact that they know that if I work this hard, I might get a vacation or day or two longer than before. So knowing what motivates every team member in your practice will give you a better understanding of how to motivate them, to create that why for each one of them, so they can help you together to reach your goal.
I love that. It reminds me of Jay Abrahams, a management guru from over there in the US. By the way, what part of the US are you guys from?
Midwest.
Kansas City. Yeah.
Love it. Back in Dorothy land. So Jay Abrahams said, and I won't be able to quote him verbatim, but it was around that space of, you be interested first in what your team member's reality is. Only once they feel recognized in that space will they care about what your reality is. It has to come from you first. And I think gone are the days, and some people begrudge this because it was so easy to control people in quotation marks, gone are the days where jobs were scarce And if you did have a job, you were so thankful you would do anything to keep that job. And so just having the job itself was motivation enough to do whatever it was that was asked of you. Do it this way. Now do it with a smile on your face. Now look happy. You sure, I'll do all that. I'll do all of that. But wonderfully, we have evolved into a space where we can pick and choose the jobs that we go for. And the money is already there. We can get the money anywhere. So now we want something layered on top of that as well. We want purpose. We want a motivation. We want to feel excited about coming to work every day. And if we don't, then we are either going to be doing one of two things. I'll either be looking abroad, elsewhere, and going down another path, or I'll be staying and getting that little bit unhappy, resentful as each day goes by. Neither scenario is great. So rather than, begrudging the good old days where you could just tell people what to do and they did it, embrace it, because it ends up being a self-motivating space when you've got a group of team members who are aware what turns them on, what motivates them, what inspires them, and putting systems in place and elements to your practice and your team in place that those things are always there and evident, then no longer does it take this enormous effort to inspire them all the time. They are inspired themselves just because of the fact they're turning up to work every day. They feel they're having a greater contribution. They feel like they are progressing and learning and becoming better people. And that by itself can help you just leap out of bed in the morning and say, you beauty, I get to go back to that dental practice again.
That's right. Yes. The other aspect to consider for the doctors is to create an environment where there's open communication between the team members and the doctor. So it's not a hierarchy where I am the doctor, and yes, you do have the degree behind it or behind your name, but set a tone where the team feels like you're peers, right? This way, the team feels more motivated to work with you versus working for you. There's a big difference. When I practice with whichever office I practice at, I always look at myself as a peer to the doctor, because we're both looking at the patient, and our main idea is to provide comprehensive treatment to the patient. The patient is the one that wins always, right? And so if I am a peer to the doctor, I am able to voice my knowledge, what I observe, what I see, what the recommendation that the doctor might suggest for whatever observation is, right? And the doctor comes in and he or she and they confirm what was suggested or recommended or communicated to the patients. So creating that open communication with your team so they understand not just I'm working for the doctor and I just need to listen, like you said, and let's be controlled. It's more about I feel heard, I feel valued here because we have open communication, and I'm able to bring up certain things where maybe the process is not working for everyone. Well, how do we change that and come up with a solution to create a better environment? That's a successful practice. When you have that relationship happening within a team, that's team alignment. That's the team that will be advocating for the patients, advocating for the practice. They are the restorative dental partners and the brand ambassadors.
I love it. I love what you were mentioning before around it's a jigsaw puzzle, and there's pieces that go into making that complete, because there is team management and patient engagement and marketing and leadership and all these areas that are separate from the clinical aspect and the patient experience you design. All these things need to be in place. And one of the visuals that I had when you were talking about that was that this is where the customization comes in, because the pieces themselves, that's proven business systems. They're proven aspects of and strategies that really need to be implemented if you want to achieve the greatest level of success. But the customization comes in as what that picture ends up looking like on that jigsaw puzzle. That ends up being your unique way of doing things and your picture that you end up, or the vision that you end up wanting for your dental practice. And the aspects of, or the things that dental practices are finding challenging at the moment, I wanted to touch on a few of those so practices out there that have never had consulting in the past, they can start to recognise, these are the things that these people can help me with. I'm imagining recruitment over here in Australia, and I think over there in the US as well, it's become a bit of a challenge at the moment.
Yes, for sure. It's very hard to find team members. Because there's two things. Number one, there is shortage of people that want to work. and there's shortage of people that are they feel that they can't stay in one place for a long period of time, what we call loyalty, right? And it's that creating the relationship long term that makes the team members say, I'm going to stay here because this doctor understands my why, my motivation, and whatnot. So as part of our consulting and our model, we do help with onboarding and training in the interview process as well. So we just helped a doctor that called, said, hey, I lost my front office receptionist. I need to find somebody really quick. No problem. We went ahead, they put in the ad. We take on the responsibility of doing the interviews for the doctor. And we had the doctor actually sit in on the interviews and just listen to us. He initially did the interviews just to kind of filter through to see who would be in who he will be interested to go to the next level of interviews. And that's where the clients came, the potential employees came to us. And when he sat in to listen to the in-depth questions and the process that we went through to see if they are truly the right fit for this particular practice and the vision of the practice, at the end, he's like, I never even knew half of the questions to ask for that process to see if that's the right person for me and where my practice is right now. There's going to be a superstar, employee or potential employee, but they might not be the right fit at this time for where the practice is or where the practice is trying to go to. So really finding when the doctors say, I want the right team member, you got to make sure that that team member you're hiring aligns with your vision, aligns with where the practice is and where the practice wants to go. Can that person have the potential to get you there? Right. So we go through that whole process to help the doctor find the right person. And I think we've been very successful in kind of identifying personalities and what personality fits with whatever practice we're working with. So it's definitely a really crucial part.
It is a crucial part. I mean, these are the people that are going to be giving that patient experience.
Yes.
And so they are in charge of whether you fail, grow, or become stagnated. And because we think that, I get to select out of these 30 people who I think is going to be the best person to come into here. But that person, that applicant, they're trying to choose the best place for them too. So they're judging you guys just as much, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
And the beautiful thing, too, is when we are helping these doctors, our model practice, we have these job aids. They are kind of laminated templates, however you want to think of it. Visual aids. Thank you. And they really guide them through day-to-day operations because we all go, to different offices and they all run differently and they have different systems and processes. But what they don't realize is none of it is documented. So when they do have an employee that's either retiring or moving on to, future career opportunities, they don't know how to replace them or they don't know what knowledge of information they need to leave behind because it's all up in here.
I think that is a big interruption, isn't it? I was just speaking about this to another dental consultant the other day that she'd been in her position for about 25 years. And I said, what happened when you left? Did you train somebody else? And she said, I was supposed to train somebody else, and I was leaving because I was pregnant. So this person had months to come in and get trained, but she'd come in for 1 hour at a time every couple of days. And then all of a sudden delivery day happened and the new person wasn't trained effectively. But that's not good enough. You need to be able to document these things. And so if for whatever reason a person was just plucked out of your surgery without any notice, somebody else could go in and have a resource that would allow them to move through all the responsibilities and tasks that they need to do.
That's right. That's when we were thinking, how do we simplify and streamline the practice operations? This is where our model practice was born because, as I mentioned before, it's predefined best practices that's good for onboarding people. It's good for as a refresher for people that are already there, just to make sure that every team member is aligned with what processes look like, what their role in that patient interaction looks like, and what is success in that with that interaction looks like as well. So having that is crucial. So when you do lose that employee, you don't have a headache because we usually help the practices bring in and onboard the right a new team member. They go through the training and onboarding process and they kind of go into the flow of your practice without much disruption happening. So that has been the beauty and the the feedback we've been getting from the doctors, like this process is fantastic because again, they're not losing revenue because they lost an employee, and bringing in the new employee and training them. If you don't have the right systems and tools, it takes a lot of revenue, a lot of loss of revenue because you're taking all this time to train. Majority of time, we have to also understand some people are really good at what they do, but they do not have the ability to teach others. Teaching others the skill is art. To be able to transform that information is art. So you can say, my primary assistant is awesome at what she does. I want her to train my new assistant. And that might not translate well because maybe she does not know how to train or educate others on what she does, because it's a clinical skill she gained over time. And she's just really good at that. So we got to keep that in mind as you are transitioning, or if you are the doctor who is, your turnover rate is happening, or high or low, but it's happening. Just keep that in mind on the personalities that you're putting that burden on. As far as the training on one of your team members, it is a burden for them. Some excel at it and some don't like that idea, but just keep that in mind.
Yeah, because if they don't like that idea, it can actually be an absolute hindrance to effective training because they're doing it in a way that's not allowing enough time to practice and repeat for the new person, or where they don't feel welcome enough to come and ask questions when they're coming across barriers. And so they end up not doing the thing properly, feeling bad about themselves, and kind of unlearning any of the learning that you're trying to put across. So you do need to it is a skill to be able to train effectively. That's absolutely for sure. What are some of the other challenges that you've helped practices overcome, their initial worry that had them come to you in the first place?
I have one in mind, kind of ties in with what we just talked about. So we have practices or dentists that call and they ask, I just cannot find the right team member, right? They have a vision of how their team members or their employees should perform, and they can't find the right team member. And then we kind of dive deeper to see, okay, where is your practice now versus where you would like to see it? What's your vision? Have you reached, or are you moving towards your vision? And that's where everything is kind of unveiled. So like peeling the onion a little bit further and further. So what's happening is the practices are looking for the right employee or the right team member to elevate them to the next level. But the practice itself is not set up for that type of employee to come into the practice and elevate them to the next level. So our message is always, don't wait for the right employee to come in. Create that practice that you want to create. The employees or your team members will either stay with you and they will embrace the vision that you have and move forward and train themselves and evolve, or they will exit out because it's not for them, and that's okay, because that team member is not there to elevate you to the next level. So we always encourage, no matter who is with you and who surrounds you, do the training, take the time to mature your practice to the next level. And then the right team member will at that time come in and they will stay with you because they are in an environment that makes them flourish and blossom, and then they are going to be more encouraged and elevated to get your practice to the next level.
Gosh, I love that. Immensely love that, because I think this is where a lot of practices find that challenge. They say, this is where we want to go. And so this is the team member that we want to be able to take us there. But then that team member comes in as an applicant and they go, no, but this is the way you guys are now, this is not appealing to me.
Exactly.
Oh, but we want to get there. We promise we want to get there. But you do. It is about build it and they will come. Create the environment that person is seeking
That's
first.
Right. That's right.
Then start bringing these applicants through. So what they see resonates and then they can jump on board with it. And I think too that quite often, and I've certainly found this, you might find this too, people will ring up and inquire about your consulting services and they'll say, when I get the right team, I'll call you back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they do the same with their goals, I think, too. When you ask them, what is your vision for the practice, they are limiting themselves to the talent that's in their team right now. Well, with this current team, in this current building, with my current services, this is what I can aspire to be. But what consultants like you guys are very good at is helping people recognize a larger vision beyond the barriers. And so what needs to be set up for that to be the path forward.
one of the models we have as well that we use in the practice as a visual for the doctor is we have a maturity model. So maturity model kind of recognizes, think of it as the stair steps, right? It recognizes where is the practice state right now. So once we identify in those steps 1 and 2, usually chaos, maybe a little bit higher than that, and then we try to, and then we show the doctor, okay, you're here, and here's where you ultimately want to be. A practice that has all the systems and processes in place, a team that's aligned, a practice that uses data to make decisions and not just by gut feeling, right? That's the ultimate vision. And then you add on, okay, my goal is to be a $2 million practice. My goal is to have, 5 operatories and other doctors in my practice as well, whatever the vision is, right? So we take our maturity model and we show them step by step, we break it down by steps of how to mature your practice from where they are today and how to achieve that level 4 of the maturity model. Not every dentist wants to be on level 4, and that's okay because we customize to what their vision is. We encourage them and enlighten them to what the potential can be. Ultimately, it's their own decision of where they want to be, right? So that's how we help the doctors see this is not a burdensome thing. It doesn't have to be. Mm-hmm. If you break it down to little steps and break it down in little steps for your team as well, it's all achievable. It's just a matter of how you look at it. And if you have this visual guide of maturity model, you have small steps to reach, and that's the important part. When you visually can see it, then you add data to actually see and measure how the performance of the practice and the health of the practice is moving. Then you educate yourself to say, yes, I need to, continue taking the same path here, or I need to pivot somewhere here and, pull the lever and maybe change the direction of how my team performs with this. So just having that understanding that does not have to be burdensome. Take one little step at a time. And if you don't have the vision or the ability to see how to break it down, you have transformational coaches that can help you with that. It's just a matter of putting your guard down and reaching out.
Love it. Love it. It's more than just the systems and the structure, isn't it? A lot of it is around mindset and how we talk to ourselves, how we talk to our team members, how the team members talk to themselves as well. And when you use that word transformational, I think that is a very good term because it doesn't take years of effort and hard work to make these transformations. It's just recognizing where those transformational points are within your business.
Exactly.
I love you've got a proper system that when you come in, this is exactly the process that we're going to go through. And, through my evolution as a dental practice consultant, at the start you go, when I had my practice, this is how it worked. I think that's going to work in other practices. And so then I'd go out to my first few clients and I'd say, you just got to do it this way. Yet every practice is so unique and different. You find yourself then, or I found myself then going, it has to be all customizable and all unique. So I'd have to redo a completely fresh approach and program for every new client. But eventually you start to recognize there were some aspects that worked well, that they adopted that worked well, some aspects that we really did try to customize, but it wasn't as successful. So then you come back to this thought of, no, there are just some sound strategies. And as you say, they're proven, industry proven. Get these things right, and then you've got control over the fluff and you can customize the fluff around that. And when I say fluff, it minimizes it. You can customize it, the image on that jigsaw puzzle yourself. But there are these proven systems that 99% of the practices out there, if they implement them, they will, guaranteed, achieve a higher level of success than they are right now.
Absolutely.
Right. Just like building a house, right? You cannot build your house on a foundation that is cracked or not strong, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. And there are doctors that, they build their practice on not have the strong foundation, the systems and processes in place, team members that understand their role, their responsibilities, how to measure their own performance. Those are the strong foundations that need to be set in order for you to succeed and build upon later. So if that is not done, it does not matter if you are a mature practice or you're just starting off or you're in the process of trying to sell your practice and gain the value to your practice before you sell it, it makes no difference. And as Tanya and I, we don't judge. As dental hygienists, we have a patient in a chair. We don't care if it has been 20 years since your last dental visit.
Yeah.
What matters today is you're here with us and you're taking charge of your own health. We do not judge. We just go forward from where you are today to move forward to get you better, right? So even if you have an established practice, we have come across that there are many established practices that do fairly well, but they still leave a lot of revenue on the table and they don't even know it. So stepping back, reevaluating to see, is my foundation strong? And if it's not, it's never too late to implement the right foundation. And then from there, you can identify, when you use the data to actually visually see the health of the practice and where you're leaving money on the table, you'll be able to then change your direction or your course to implement the right systems and processes so you're not leaving revenue on the table. And that revenue can help you with your retirement. That revenue will help you with selling of the practice ultimately. That revenue also helps with maintaining your team happy, because that's where the bonus system comes into play, or maybe even raising their wages. Whatever wherever the money is going to go, it's there. It's just a matter of visually seeing it and being okay with yourself to say, I'm going to step back, reevaluate, and see, do I have my ducks in a row?
That's good. You really touched on an important point. We're not just talking about making your current everyday more efficient, more productive, and more happy and less stressed. Right. We're talking about one day you're going to want to sell this practice.
Exactly.
And how much do you want to sell it for?
Yes. We go into practices and say, okay, yours, just like we have a practice right now. He just bought this practice from somebody else. And we start with a vision long-term. What if you're at a point where you're going to be selling your practice? What does that practice look like? Go from there. You start at that point, visualize how much would you want to sell your practice for? What is the gain from that sell that you want to be doing? And what does that look like? That means that you have a lot of new technology in the practice. So then you move towards that. Does that mean that you have associates or whatever that looks like? How do you establish that with that image in mind? With I am selling the practice at this point. What does that look like? And you start now to make that happen later.
And I think that's a really helpful step, actually. I think sometimes, and I'm always self-reflecting when I do this, I realize I'm just speaking for myself, but sometimes if people said, where do you want to be in 5 years or 10 years? I'm like, well, I don't know. It's really hard to say. Whereas, because you feel like you are bound by your current conditions.
Correct.
Whereas if you say, well, what does that practice that you're ending up going to be selling, what does that look like in terms of systems, team, patient experience, structure, income, all the things? And it's like a separation enough away from where you are right now, where you can be more aspirational and say, oh, I reckon it could be this and it would be worth this much. And I'd be really handing over this golden opportunity to somebody else, and it can continue functioning beautifully, even though I'm no longer there. And the existing team will stay because it's just so wonderful there. And that can be your first step towards a vision if clients are finding it difficult to develop a vision for themselves right now. Yeah. So the benefits, when you do move successfully through a dental consulting program, you will have an increased turnover. You will have a more aligned, happy team. You will be systematized. You will have the various aspects with proven strategies behind them. You will be acquiring a better version of new patient coming through and keeping your great new patients and your existing wonderful patients as well. I can't actually see a negative, a drawback. It's worth a shot.
It is worth a shot. So the one thing that we inspire the dentist is we always say, look at it as an investment. Mm-hmm. It's not a burden or an expense. Because if you look at the bigger companies out there, like Apple, for example, right? They are well known. Do you think one person did that? No.
That's right.
It's a huge team, a lot of masterminds that come together on a daily basis to create the company that big with that vision and make it as big as it is today. Now let's scale it down a little bit. Even if you are a private practice, one dentist and a small team, that's the same idea. In order to become as successful as you can be or want to be, it does not take one person to do it. It takes a team, not just the team that's within your practice, but as you mentioned before, accountant, marketers, coaching company, all of that together combined, that's your structural team that will bring the practice to its utmost success that it can become. So
Yes.
keeping that in mind, that's very important. Even all of those inspirational speakers like Tony Robinson, for example, he has a coach.
Yeah, they all have coaches.
They all have coaches. So no matter how elevated you are, or how rich you are, or how how much you've achieved in life, every person that achieved so much has a coach that guided them to get there. And once they reached that level of inspiration or achievement, then they moved on to another coach that elevated them to even higher level. Right. So that's why getting a coach it's a great investment in your personal growth, in the professional growth, and the growth of the team.
I love it, because all of these highly successful people, like Tony Robbins, like Tiger Woods and sporting stars and things, they always recognise their potential for more. As Tony Robbins says, that constant and never-ending improvement journey. There's always more to get, more to achieve, better to become, and all I need is the next step, the next piece of information, the next strategy. And if I knew it already, I'd be doing it already. And if I'm not doing it already, that means I have to go to the people that have those strategies so I can be exposed to those ideas. Right. So if there are practices out there that would love to seek your assistance, and I really do encourage them to do so, do you go on site? Can you do off-site things as well?
Absolutely. Thanks with technology. I mean, you're in Australia, we're in Kansas City. Absolutely, we can.
Yeah, we do both.
So you'd be available for Australian dental practices as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that. I love it. We've got my buddy and I, we've got a dental practice management course, and we're thrilled to bits that we've got a guy from Canada who is a student, and he wakes up at 4:30 in the morning to do our live sessions, and we're like, yeah. So you're right. The technology nowadays, all of a sudden we can get information and resources from all over the world to help us be more successful. So what's the process if someone is wanting to jump on board with you guys, get some sort of discovery session happening about what more specifically you can do for them, and if they're going to be a good fit with you, what's their best next step and what happens after that?
So what we would like to offer for your listeners actually is a free discovery session for 30 minutes with us. And so for the first 20 people that are going to reach out, we're going to give them the free discovery session. What that entails is, number one, us understanding who you are, what your vision is, what is where your practice is right now, and where would you like to elevate it to be. And so once we go from there, then we can share a bit more of how our model practice can help achieve those goals, or how do we customize that approach for the team, for the practice, and for doctor's vision. And that's a perfect opportunity as we get to know each other to say, yes, I feel like we are the right fit, or no, I'm going to go with someone else, or seek others for their recommendation. That is perfectly fine. As I mentioned before, we don't judge. We're here to provide information. If you would like to take it, great. If we're not the right fit, that's okay too.
And we provide a roadmap during our session just to show the doctor what we want to focus on, and then they give us feedback and we dive right in.
If they're interested, our website is convergedental.com. Just click contact us and let us know, or type in the word Julie. And you'll be one of the if you're one of the 20 first people that are going to contact us, you'll get your free discovery session.
That is exciting. I like being a special word. I feel like that fits me.
But they listen to Julie Parker's show.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's a thrill. It's a thrill. And hopefully you guys will be starting your own podcast soon too, because there's just so many pearls of wisdom to learn and to share with dental practices. And as you mentioned before, just listen to get an idea, because how often, I mean, I think every single podcast I listen to, even if I don't particularly love it and I finish listening to it halfway through, there's always something I take out from it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I really encourage dental practices worldwide to jump onto convergedental.com, get that discovery session happening with that very special word, Julie, and just investigate. Take that first step of investigating. I wonder what could be. I wonder what difference this could make. You know, that whole, what was that analogy? If you launch a rocket from here, from Earth, and head it towards the moon, it only needs to be out by point something of a percentage, of course, and it goes far off the other side.
Right.
However, this could be the 1% that you need to really make a big shift to how you currently experience your dental surgery, your team members do, and your patients do, but also 5-10 years down the track. What does that end up looking when you're making these small efforts right now? So I encourage everyone to jump on and, at the very least, investigate. Discover what this sort of step can mean for your practice and for yourself personally. Thank you both so very much. It's been such a delightful conversation. I've loved it.
We had so much fun. At least I did.
Same.
Thank you so much. It was truly our pleasure to be here and enrich the listeners with this. I believe the information here is very, very empowering to take the next steps if the practice needs it. So it was a pleasure.
Thank you, Julie.